1969, a book called My Book All About Me is released by a little known author by the name of Dr. Seuss. Both Layne's mother and Jerry's mother get them a copy of the book. At 9 years old, Layne writes, "I want to be a singer." As soon as
If I was a fancy psychiatrist and I was writing a paper on Layne Staley's psyche and what affected him, what drove him to the point of no return, I would title it Sheer Rejection on the Most Fundamental Level of Human Relations. There is one aspect key to Layne Staley's downward spiral that is often talked about but also overlooked. I believe it was the center driving force for Layne his entire life, not only on his quest for fame and stardom, but also is what pushed him down the spiral to his death, and that is his biological father. Now, before you roll your eyes and you say, "Oh, we've all had tragedy in our lives, it didn't push me to become an addict," I want you to know that Layne Staley's story is very unique. I'm not talking about the fame, the fortune, none of that. I'm talking about what hurt him. What broke his heart is unique to Layne Staley. No one who's going to watch this video, not me or anybody we know, endured what Layne Staley endured. His story is very unique. I have no articulate hook that will make you want to stick with me throughout this video, but what I will tell you is what I have found in my research has led me to believe that Layne Staley's weakness, his Achilles heel, what led him down that spiral eventually to his end, is directly connected to that Dr. Seuss book and what he wrote in it. Now, allow me to explain his story and connect these dots for you. I'm fairly confident that no one's going to disagree with this assessment. It makes a lot of sense, but if you watch the entire video, I would love to hear your own thoughts and comments. Although I started the Alice in Chains series 2 years ago, when I first started writing videos about the 90s grunge icons that you and I love, the first two bands that came to mind was Nirvana and Alice in Chains. And I sort of left it on a cliffhanger because, quite frankly, I think Layne Staley's so cool that in my head I just wanted to keep him alive, keep him forever young. It wasn't until recently that I began researching the details of his end. I knew it was sad, I knew it was dark, I knew that the love of his life, Dimri, died before he did, and that must have broken him down severely. But I do not believe that Dimri was the cause of his death. I do not believe that Dimri's passing was what made Layne Staley say, "Screw it, I'm past the point of no return." However, I do believe that I have found the single driving force in Layne Staley's life that led him to fame, that led him to his demise. There is one detail, one aspect of Layne Staley's life that he mentions himself fleetingly here and there in interviews up until including his very last interview only weeks before his death, and that is his biological father and what his biological father did to him. Try to put yourself in Layne's shoes for a moment. From birth until the age of 7, you know this one man and this one woman, mother and father. You build a deep connection with them. You have a nice, comfortable, financially secure, middle-class lifestyle. Your family is just as normal as every other family. Suddenly, abruptly, one of your parents, in Layne's case his father, vanishes. I'm talking perpetual missing persons report. Not a birthday card, not a phone call. Phil Staley disappears for the next 15 years without a word. We've all had tragedy in our lives. In fact, divorce is quite common. But let's think about this and put yourself in Layne's shoes. What are the most common variables? It is usually A, dad abandons the baby before the baby's even born. That's my situation. Perhaps it's yours as well. The child never has a chance to develop a connection with father because father was never there to begin with. And yeah, it sucks, but you cannot miss what you never had. You cannot miss someone you never knew. Sure, I was curious about my father. Who is he? Where do I come from? Everybody has that sort of instinct to know where they come from, but I never had a connection with this guy. And to this day, I don't have a connection with this guy, and I don't feel sad about it because I never had it to begin with. I didn't lose anything. So that happens to most kids. Then we have B. Mom and dad get divorced. Usually, mom will get custody during the week. Dad has the kids on the weekends. Now, in that situation, yeah, it sucks too. But you get to carry on a relationship with your father. You know that your father is there for you whenever you need him. You know he loves you. You can call him on the phone. You can write him a letter. You can email him. Imagine you are Layne Staley. You love your father. You follow this guy around every day. You are his shadow. And then one day he's just gone. He doesn't call you. He doesn't write you, not even on your birthday, not even for Christmas. It is a perpetual missing persons report. And remember, guys, this is in the 70s and 80s when people really can go off the grid. There's no internet. And I've been in that situation where somebody I truly cared about came up missing, and I had to go file a missing persons report. And I can tell you, it is a really, really fucked up situation to be in. Why are they just gone? Do they not care about me? Are they dead? Are they alive? Do they care if I'm dead or alive? That's why I say Layne Staley's situation is unique. I guarantee that none of us have went through what he went through. Layne grows up wondering, where is this man that was so endearing to me, that I loved so much, that I looked up to? Where is he, and why doesn't he want to talk to me? After developing a close bond over a 7-year period, it's all he ever knew. The third variable, C, would happen if one parent dies. And in ways, I think that a parent dying would be easier than a parent disappearing. If they die, you know they're gone. They're out of this realm. You can never see them again. They're not gone because they don't want to be with you. They're gone because they can't be with you physically. This causes grief. This causes mourning, which leads to closure. When the parent that you've built this 7-year relationship with, and keep in mind, he's only 7 years old, so it's all he's ever known, when they just disappear and your mom is telling you, yeah, your dad's alive, but we don't know where he is. We don't know why he won't come home. We don't know why he doesn't call you. Then you're perpetually left with no closure. That's the way Layne had to grow up, and that's why I say it's unique to him and probably not unique to any of us. Throughout Layne's early years, he would try to find his father. In secret, he would search for his father, and he always came up short-handed. He could not locate him. In fact, in Layne Staley's last interview, he told the interviewee that his driving force for wanting to become a rock star was because he felt as though, if I become a celebrity, then my father will come back to me. Sure, there was anger, there was resentment. Why does this guy who's supposed to love me, why is he just gone from my life? But there's still this yearning to know his father, and he thinks, well, if I'm not good enough as a normal person, what if I become a celebrity? Layne would say that at a very young age, people told him he had a very unique voice. He knew that he had the charisma and the talent to make it in the music world, so that's why he chose that route. His main goal was to make his father want him. And it's so sad because that's exactly what happened. When Layne was 21 years old, he was featured on the cover of a magazine. His father, Phil Staley, saw his son featured on the magazine and all of a sudden wanted to be dad again. How sad is this? How pathetic is this? But still, it's your father, right? It's your dad. So even though in the back of your mind you're thinking, well, he didn't come around until he seen me in a magazine, you're just happy to have that dad back in your life. Phil gives Layne a very good excuse. Well, let me back that up. There's really no good excuse for abandoning a child. But if there were a good excuse, it would be the one that Phil gave to Layne. What he said was, I became a drug addict. I realized that my dangerous lifestyle would endanger your mother, your sister, and you, so I disappeared. I didn't want anybody that I was dealing with to know that I even had a wife and children. I was afraid for your safety. This is the BS excuse that Phil Staley gives Layne, but if there ever was an excuse, the only reason I can think of for a parent to abandon their child is if somehow somehow that parent's life could endanger the child's life. And Phil is a master manipulator. He uses that excuse. As Layne and Phil get to know each other more, Phil lets this loose. He says, "Oh, I've been sober for 6 years. I had actually gotten sober 6 years ago." This would have been when Layne Staley was 15 years old, going through that teenage angst, missing his father, building that resentment, that anger, feeling like a piece of his heart is missing. And Layne would later say in his last interview, "Why didn't he come and visit me when he got sober? If that was true, you're no longer a danger to me. Why didn't you come and see me when I was 15 years old?" Layne Staley would go on to say that inevitably he figured out that his father was using him. In fact, at one point when he expressed his intentions to get clean, to get away from the drug lifestyle, his father egged him on and got him that very day to buy them both drugs. Whether or not Phil Staley was telling the truth and he did indeed stay sober for 6 years, no one knows. One thing's for sure, once he had Layne's money to control, he went right back into the drug lifestyle. His father just tagged along and bummed money. Now, when I say that this is linked to that book, Layne was 9 years old when he wrote in that book, "I'm going to be a rock star." 2 years previously, when he was 7, is when his father disappeared. It's easy to see, to connect the dots, and say that Layne's father disappearing affected his whole life. It even shaped his ambition. He decided to take this route in life that he took, and what's even more amazing is that he accomplished such an incredible feat just to get his father back. And when he gets his father back, his father is nothing of what a father should be. It's a complete tragedy. In his young mind, in his 9-year-old mind, he was thinking, "I'm going to become famous so my dad will come back to me." How fucking sad is that? Loving your child is instinct. It is innate. It comes with you. You're equipped with it. Apparently, there are those who are missing that gene. There's nothing you could possibly do to make me want to abandon my children. I myself was an alcoholic. It was something I developed in college, in my 20s. All through my 20s, I had a bad drinking problem. It's why I attended 3 different universities, and it took me 8 years to obtain a simple associate's degree. When I had my first child, around the age of 30, I decided, you know what? I can't be a good dad while I'm an alcoholic. I am endangering my child. So you know what I did? I quit drinking. I did not abandon my child. A good person gives up the booze, gives up the drugs for the sake of someone else. It's called sacrifice. It's what you're supposed to do. From the moment you have a child, your life is devoted to that child. Your life no longer matters. That's on the back burner. You can wait for retirement for that shit. That first 20 years of their life is devoted to them, not you. Now, you might think a 9-year-old is not developed enough to look that far in the future. I have a son who's 10 years old, and I can confidently say that, yes, their minds are developed enough. At 9 years old, you could make that distinction. Well, what if I become famous? Then would dad come home? Yeah, they're capable of that. And I believe that was what ate away at Layne Staley his entire life. It is what drove him to fame. Wanting his biological father to want him as he should have is what drove Layne to fame. And then he met his father and realized that his father didn't really love him and that his father was using him. An addict has tunnel vision, and the hardcore drugs will make you forget about yourself. It'll make you forget about those around you, including your own children. That's how powerful it is. Phil Staley was possibly the one single person on earth who could have helped Layne Staley. Layne sought his approval, his acceptance, his love, his entire life. Phil could have stopped doing what he was doing. He could have stopped Layne from doing what he was doing, and instead he pushed him into oblivion. And to me, this is the most tragic, sad detail of Layne Staley's life, and it is unique to him. How many of us can say that we have that kind of story?